Hello and welcome to the provisionally titled Above Question podcast. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Brendan.
And I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Drew.
Pack
As
3
part of
today.
our Dominion Cycle pack reviews, we will
Ooh.
be reviewing pack number
3 of the Dominion Cycle, In Pursuit of Truth. This just hit shelves at the beginning of June, I believe it was. June 7th, maybe?
Yep.
So this pack is still pretty fresh off the presses. It has seen some play in the online, quote-unquote, meta that definitely doesn't exist. But we're going to dive...
I just wanted to go ahead and stick this little bit in. It came to my attention that at several points throughout the cast, we talk about cards being potatoed or cards being a potato, and I realize that not everybody might understand what this term means. Generally speaking, it means that in the event that a character becomes dishonored, their glory stat will basically make their cards 0. I don't actually remember what the origin of this is, or if it's something from old 5R, or if it's just like a colloquialism from Magic. But yeah, generally it means that in the event that the character becomes dishonored, its stats are 0, and therefore it won't contribute skill to a conflict. So whenever we say potato for this and any future casts, that's what we mean. So if there's any other jargon that we use that you're not sure of, or that you want us to explain something like this, please feel free to put it down in the comments, and we'll do our best to approach it or be better about using very, very like dialectical or regional jargon in future episodes. Thanks, guys. Back to the rest of the cast.
But we're going to dive right into it. Before we really get too deep, we are just going to explain our rating system. Just running down our list of how we rate things on the Above Question podcast. We rate it on a 5-ring scale. We try not to rate things best to worst, but we do have them in there. The Fire Ring just means that card is amazing. It is an amazing card. It instantly makes it in any archetype of any deck.
Earth Ring means that the card is a solid choice. It has a great foundation, will be played in most decks, but might not make it into competitive decks or decks that don't have a lot of wiggle room either on the Dynasty or Conflict side.
Water Ring means that it is a flexible choice. It might see play in some niche archetypes, but probably is not going to make it into any sort of competitive deck.
Air, the card is up in the air. Not sure if it's going to fit in any particular meta or in any real deck, or I'm not sure really where the theme's going with it.
And the Void Ring means that we will be banishing it to the void.
It's binder fodder, never put it in anything ever.
Light a match, burn it.
The Void is bad. Okay. First card of the new pack is Above Question.
I'll actually kill you.
Wow, so it sounds like Brendan doesn't really like this card.
That
Brendan,
sounds
does
like
that mean that you'll be rating this a void?
Dude, I used to play this card.
What do you mean? It's brand new.
It's, oh my
Brendan has
God.
rated it void. We're all
Wow,
on the same page.
Drew?
You know, I gotta go with my gut instinct. It's a fun.
I'm going to give this a solid Earth.
Ooh. Yeah, see, I think that when this card is eventually released, of which, of course, it has not yet been,
send help.
I think it's probably going to be a fire. I think we're going to see this as a 3-of in every grain deck, and at the very cheap influence cost of 2, will probably be a splash in most decks that like attachments.
Someone in the comments section, I'm being held against my will.
All jokes aside, this is a great example of how the ring system will work. Each person will go in turn. Brendan, Drew, Ronnie, Brandon. We will give a short blurb about what we think about the card, and then we will give our rating. It'll appear up on the screen, and then we'll continue on.
So the first card we have in the pack 3 in Pursuit of Truth of the Dominion Cycle is Blatant Swindler. It is a 1-cost Dynasty character that is a 1/1 with 1 glory, keywords of Courtier and Merchant, which locks you into the Seeker role. It has an action, which reads, during a conflict in which this character is participating, give your opponent an honor. That player chooses a participating character they control and move that character home. My hot takes on this card. It is hot doo-doo garbage. Can you smell what the void is cooking? It's a Void Ring. Giving your opponent an honor out of Crab is not something worth anything right now, especially considering that Butcher of the Fallen just reads, they can't defend anyway, so go get out of here. That's my take. And then, Drew, your hot take on this card.
You know, I'm heavily in agreement. It's a 1/1 with 1 glory. It just potatoes into many great decks. You give your opponent an honor in this current meta where there's honor runner decks out of Lion, and there's Scorpion who are just going to dishonor it, and you're just giving them more honor to work off of. It's just not a good card.
Give your opponent honor out of Crab.
Crab already starts pretty low. I'm also giving this void. Ronnie.
I'm going to give Rosie O'Donnell a void. You look at that card and tell me that's not Rosie O'Donnell.
Brandon.
So, although I will say that there could potentially someday be some neat interaction where you are sending characters home. There's definitely no support for that currently in Crab, except for the unopposed bonus, which is completely negated by the card's effect of giving your opponent 1 honor. So, no, it's absolutely a void. But maybe one day.
All right, so from the above question podcast, that is 4 voids. Moving on.
The next card we have in the pack is Return from the Shadows. It's a 0-cost event
Ooh.
card that is conflict with 3 splashable koalas or bamboo stalks. It reads, reaction. After you win a conflict, unopposed, choose a province the defending player controls. Put a dishonored status token on that card and reveal it if able. While a province has a dishonored status token, treat its printed text box as if it were blank, except for traits. Max 1 per conflict. My hot takes on this card are it's really good. It costs 0 money, and in a conflict deck that costs you like 12 money or 18 money or a bajillion money, really. It also has a very good synergies with probably the strongest grab card out there right now, which is Butcher of the Fallen, which pretty much gives you good unopposed conflicts anyway, as well as the fact that, Crab has some good covert tricks. If you're splashing various clans that send dudes home, if they somehow get a defender in, even with Butcher, or if you haven't seen a Butcher yet, one of your other probably like 3/3s or higher military static characters like Casada. And being able to basically blank text boxes of cards, regardless of what kind of cards those are, either characters or in this case provinces, is extremely powerful. We've seen various other cards like that in what other cards? Like Ambusher out of Unicorn have been seen a lot of play, as well as on the Dynasty side of Crane being Cautious Scouts. My hot take on this card is it is fire. I would auto slam this into any crab deck that I could. Even though it's kind of tight right now, I would try and find room for it just because of its my previous stated synergies with the clan already. Drew, your hot takes on this card?
I think we got a fairly good card here, like you said. Being able to shut off another province and reveal it so you can just scout ahead. Winning an unopposed conflict, especially early, isn't the hardest thing to do. Like you said before, Crab has cards like Butcher of the Fallen and Covert Tricks, and even Way of the Crab and Assassination just to really dwindle down your opponent's forces. I don't see this as a fire card. I see it more of an earth card. I do see it being played. I'm not 100% sure it'll be in every single deck, but I do see it being played. I'm going to give it a solid earth.
Ronnie, your hot takes on this card?
I do think it is a very good card. I'm gonna go Earth as well. I'm not sure if it does make it into every deck, but I do think it's a very good card with a very strong ability.
And just because it might come up, do either Drew or Ronnie see this card being splashable in clans other than Crab? More importantly, more military-based clans like I both play Lion, or maybe even Unicorn or Crane cards, Crane decks.
I'm not sure I see it so much in Lion just because of the steep influence cost and the fact that at the moment Lion only has one covert card.
Very well.
Yeah.
I do see this seeing play in decks like Unicorn. Scouting the Terrain is a very popular card right now, where if all 4 provinces are revealed, you can just attack your opponent's stronghold. Unicorn are not super estranged to the idea of unopposed conflicts against their opponent. They have cards like Yasamura, who can just, really covert out a board and stuff like that. They're really good at just flipping up as many provinces as possible, and this might just be another easier way, paired up with cards like Common Cause, to really just push that scouted terrain mechanic forward, or just shutting off provinces. I do see Unicorn seeing this. Maybe not Lion, but I do see at least Unicorn playing it as well.
Fair enough. Brandon, your hot takes on this card?
So I think this card's ballin'. I'm probably gonna go fire. just because I think that every crab deck is probably going to run this card at least a 1 of, if not a 2 or 3 of. Probably not a 3 of, just because it is somewhat situational and unfortunately can't be used more than once per conflict. But I think the big takeaway is that it says choose a province the defending player controls, and if the threat of this card alone is going to warp the meta when playing against Crab, because you can't let them not get an unopposed conflict, because the very first time in a game that you let them get an unopposed conflict, your stronghold province is turned off for the whole game.
The
3, 2,
next
1, go.
card we have in pack 3 is another crab card called Third Whisker Snake. It is a 2-cost, 2/1 Dynasty side creature Nezumi Scout, who, like all the rest of the Nezumi cards we've seen, is immune to Shadowlands and Maho effect. The card reads, it also has 0 glory. The card reads, reaction. After this character wins an unopposed conflict, search the top X cards of your conflict deck for a card and add it to your hand. X is equal to the number of unbroken provinces you control. Shuffle. My hot takes on this card is it's a very solid card. Being able to tutor the top of your deck, especially in a clan where it's relatively hard to break its provinces, at least on the military side. If they come in with a pole conflict greater than 3, you're kind of big boned unless you have like one of your 3/3s around. But yeah, I mean, being able to search your cards is never bad. It's kind of tough to see if this card fits in anywhere. It doesn't really have a Bushi text to it. It's a good sack effect, but it doesn't give you like on sack reactions. So I don't know. I think it being able to search is good enough to find a means for it somewhere. I just don't know where you're cutting cards. You're probably not cutting Shrujitsukis for it. You're probably not cutting any of your 3 or higher cards. Our 2s and 1s are sack heavy effect cards where we kind of need those to like get stuff off the boat or off to the races, really, to get the deck starting to go. So I don't know. My hot take on this card is probably an Earth. I want to rate it higher simply because being able to search our deck for something that we might really need without having to sacrifice honor is something that I feel like Crab desperately needs, but I just don't know where it goes. But Drew, your hot takes on the card?
Again, you generally know Crab Clan better than I do, but I would say this is a fairly solid card. Mainly for the fact that for the tutor, the Immune to Shadowlands and Maho stuff is just all flavor text. I mean, it doesn't really do anything for anyone. I mean, there's probably that one rare instance where it will and everyone's minds will be blown, but it doesn't really matter. 2-cost, 2/1, that's the Lion stat line if I've ever seen one. 0 glory, that's a Crab stat line if I've ever seen one. The reaction is great. You really like to try and keep your provinces unbroken. I really like the theme they're going for here in this pack with the unopposed conflict wins. A lot easier to do with like Butcher of the Fallen and, like you said before, Covert Tricks. I'm going to give this card a solid Earth just on the tutor effect alone and the ability that you can just sack this card for pretty cheap. Ronnie.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think the tutor effect is really good. I think I'm going to go water on this one solely because I just feel like even though the ability is good, the other aspects of this card are just not as strong.
And needing to have an unopposed conflict for it to trigger at all is kind of a hoop to jump through.
Yeah, because like, are you really gonna drop your
Cheese Boy Adventures?
Yeah, Cheese Boy Adventures.
Subterranean
I'm
Guile.
trying to think of the real name of that card.
The card is called Cheese Boy Adventures.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go watering on this one just because I do think the tutor is pretty good effect, but I just think the rest of the card doesn't lack like the strength to actually get it off, and I feel like heavily relying on other cards to help a card, it doesn't inherently make it better. Or inherently make it good.
Your hot take on the card?
Yeah, I think the effect is okay. The problem is that it's like real good on turn 1 and then kind of pointless later on. It's not pointless. It says draw a card at all times, right? But I think that the having this guy be the one who wins an unopposed conflict. If it said after you win an unopposed conflict, I think this guy would be neater. And maybe you could trigger it multiple times per turn.
Yeah,
But as it stands, I just think it's too many hoops to jump through for too little payoff.
Doesn't Shrewd Yusuke just do this but for free, really?
Yeah, right. And so I think for that reason, I'm probably going to have to give this a water ring. Maybe, they'll hit critical mass with some extra ways to win on opposed conflicts, and it'll be better later. But I think it's just probably not going to be
Here's
not going to be good enough. It's
something-
solid. It has some legs, but
here's something that I
Four
did
of 'em.
not think, and this is more of a rules question for you, Brandon, because you judge.
Yep.
Does this card combined with the Archer Scout card, where whenever he wins a conflict, his count is unopposed, does that trigger this trigger?
yeah,
Yes,
it should.
because it counts as unopposed.
Because it will make the conflict count as unopposed, right? So it'll trigger all the new unopposed crab stuff.
Correct.
So perhaps there could be a convocation of opposition or lack thereof.
So that's something to think about as well.
Neat. Yeah. Like I said, more stuff like that maybe. We'll see. Cards like this with minimal payoff effects working. Also, I think maybe if it were like search the top XX cards or something, or some number of X cards, but where it's basically just secret cache at best,
That literally
and
says search
draw
the
a
top
card at
X
worst.
cards.
Yeah, I'm saying search the top more than X cards, like X times 2 cards would be good.
That's
But
too
you're
many
not really
letters.
searching if it's looking for the top 5. Like you're just basically drawing a card.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Moving on.
it's
to
not
the next
quite
cards.
tutor is my
Right.
point.
So for the Crane Clan, the first card of this pack is Asahina Augur. It is a Shugenja heir. It is a 2-fate 0/0 with 3 glory. That means it is a 2-fate 3/3 for Crane, because they always honor their characters. You may look at face down cards in your provinces. As an action, choose a card in your province, discard that card, limit 3 times per round. First hot take, Brendan.
Yikes, this card's bad. Void Ring for me. I just don't see a reason. I mean, it's shootable from assassinations. It's a 2/0/0, and it's like, yeah, but you can honor it to make it a 3/3, or you could just play a 3/3, like a 3-drop 3/3 with probably 2 glory because it's Crane. So you get a 5/5 instead. I just don't see any reason to run this card outside of like hitting Shigenjas where you want it. It doesn't have the rally effect, so like garbage. I mean, being able to like discard cards is cute, but like I really don't see that as like being a boon in anything outside of Crab, especially where like Keeper Initiates aren't really a thing for anyone anymore because they're on the restricted list. So yeah, I don't know. Card's bad.
All right, I'll pick up from there. I'm going to agree. I don't think this card is very good. I'm not going to say bad. I'm not going to say bad just based off of you may look at all the face down cards in your provinces and discard up to 3 all within the dynasty phase. So you play this, it could be a 2-cost 3/3. It could just be a 2-cost 0/0 chud that just defends so you don't lose an honor. But you play it, you get to cycle 3 dynasty cards. Not the worst. I'm gonna give it void just based off the fact I don't see it ever seeing play, but I do see how it could be good, but I'm still giving it void. On to Ronnie.
I think I'm gonna break from the group here. I think I'm gonna give it air, just because I do like the idea of being able to cycle through cards. I think that's actually a pretty strong ability. And the fact that you can cycle through 3, I think is really good. Like it's the stats on the card is like the major drawback, but I do think the ability is good. That's why I'm going here.
Okay.
Brandon.
So, I think I'm going to give this a water ring. My thought process is this. So, paying 2 or 3 fate on round 1 or 2, to have this guy out at the end of the round so that you can pitch 3 cards in your provinces before you flip for the next round, I think is amazing. And I think that it might not be good enough to justify him, but in a Crane deck, especially a heavy honor Crane deck, you certainly are going to have the opportunity to honor him, and there are plenty of honor effects that they can take advantage of to make him a 3/3. And a 3/3 for 2, even if it's a 3/3 that's very conditional, isn't the worst thing in the world. But he is also a Shugenja, which is something that Crane has traditionally struggled with, especially in the low cost bracket, enabling Shugenja-esque cards. But the reason I think the real reason that I like this is because he pitches face down cards, and so in the event that you were to say splash cards that would let you get cards back from the discard pile, this guy would be extra particularly useful, and he is a Shugenja to enable that to boot. So water, maybe sometime it will fit into something. I don't think for sure, but it could happen. Also, if you're not going to attack with him because he's a 0/0, he is going to almost guarantee you the favor because he is an Imperial Palace for 2.
Our next Crane card of this pack is the Wealth of the Crane. It is a 5-cost event. Reduce the cost to play this card by 1 for each face-up province you control. So this could cost 0. Look at as an action, look at the top 10 cards of your Dynasty deck. Put one of those cards into each of your non-stronghold provinces face up. Shuffle. Max once per phase. Brendan for the first hot take.
What a card.
I'm highlighting Void for you already.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I mean, I see I like hear Christmas bells, and I'm just like putting the cookies out for Santa now and thinking that you splash this into a crab deck and make the wall, and you're just like, man, the great wall of the crab, and then your opponent kills you, and you're like, but I did the thing, and they're like, yeah, I don't care. The card's bad. I don't really know what you're digging for this. The card. I really don't. I mean, you could pay 5. You could pay like 3 realistically, 3 or 2 to find your 5-drop to then play with like 2. So that's 7, 9 fate in the thing to like. I mean, I don't know if your economy is really huge. Paying 9 fate to ensure a big 5-cost dude that could like win you the game, maybe that's good. I don't really see it. I think the card's trash.
All right. I preemptively and definitely not accidentally put the Void Ring on my vote, but I'm agreeing. It just costs too much for what it does. Yes, you could refill all 4 of your provinces in theory for 1 money. Eminent provinces are becoming much more of a thing, but you're running 1 to 2. I know Crane are kind of running 1 right now. Like City of the Rich Frog is very popular. And I know Suma's coming out. I just don't think, even for 3, I don't think that effect's worth it. Searching the top 10 for a card that you want, maybe in the future, but not right now. I'm giving it Void. On to Ronnie.
I am once again going to break the back, and I think I'm going to go water on this. Because as we talked about, it's a really steep cost, but this card does say rally all your provinces, which I think is pretty damn strong. We all are in agreement that rally is a strong ability, so
Sure.
the more we stack it, I don't know, I do.
Stop that! Stop that!
I'm dying.
I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong, but I do think that the ability of this card is really strong, and I don't know. That's just all I can say.
I think I'm also going water. I think Ronnie has a very strong point. And although I will preface that, it's definitely, this is definitely a magical Christmas land scenario.
Yeah.
I get it. I can almost hear the sleigh bells now. I think that it is not unreasonable for 2 reasons. Reason 1, at the end of the game, if they are on your stronghold, it is free. Maybe not free, but 1 at most, right? Because they will have had to have broken 3 provinces to get to your stronghold, which will be face up. Which means that there's at least 4 face up provinces that you control, even though they're destroyed. Which means that there'll be 1 left. I think that having access to 10 cards from your Dynasty deck, able to be purchasable in any given province or any given dynasty phase, I think is an absurdly powerful ability. And I think that this is definitely a card that people are going to test and might eventually end up being a one or more of in every Crane deck, or not. But I think that it's going to be pretty strong. If you resolve this effect, you can't doubt that you're going to have an absurdly honed in character set for what to deal with, and it adds them to the province. It doesn't replace them. It just puts one into each of the province, which means there's actually no downside to resolving it either, because you're not losing what's out already. You're just gaining more options. I think this card is very powerful, but it's a little magical Christmas land. Although if you do start the game with 3 eminent provinces, turn 1 paying 2 for this might not be the worst thing either.
What eminent
That's all.
provinces would Crane run at this point?
Well, City of the
There's
Rich Frog,
City
the
of the
one
Rich
we're
Frog.
about to talk of,
Yep, Suma. I think every
Maybe-
clan has access to 2.
except for Scorpion. Maybe one day.
Scorpion has
Yeah.
Toshi Rambo, and now they
And
have
then-
their new one coming out in this
Yeah.
pack, right? Is it this pack or next pack?
Well,
It
we'll
is this
find
pack.
out.
We will. All right, moving on to the next card. Our next Crane card and the last Crane card of this pack is Suma. The card that I was talking about that I thought was coming out a pack or 2 later. It is a 3-strength province. It is a city. It is eminent, so it starts face up. Each character played from this province enters play honored. Brendan, first hot take.
My hot take is I am taking the train from 310 to Zuma. This card is fire as crap. If you're not running this card in Crane, you're wrong. It is a multi element province, just like all the other eminent provinces. So you can fix this into anything you're running, either if you're looking for a fire province to replace or an air province to replace. But just the fact that how bloated the honor or the glory stat is on pretty much all of your characters, to not run this card, I think would just be denying you so much free value off not just only stats, but cards that require you to interact with your honored characters. And it also requires your opponent to double dishonor your dudes to get them dishonored, which only one card that we know of actually does that, and it's on. Is it banned, Brandon, or restricted? Restricted. So,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Card's insane. I don't know much else to talk about it. It's also powder blue, so usually those cards are also insane. Drew, are you taking the 310 to Zuma?
I believe I am. This is a very strong province in my play group, in all of our play groups, since we are all together. I have play tested a player with this, Nick Mason, who is a local Permamoto, since he will never lose his Hanamoto status. He has played this against me quite a lot. I've never thought it was a bad province until I broke it turn 1, and then I told him it was garbage. Otherwise,
Yeah, but you're wrong.
Yeah, but it was more of a trash talk. But eminent provinces, they have a really good effect. They always do. This one's super good, especially out of Crane. I'm gonna give it fire. Ronnie, you're up.
I do like this card, but I think I'm gonna go Earth, just because I just feel like fire and air have like those particular roles for other provinces are also very strong, and at one point we're just gonna hit critical mass on Crane honor mechanics.
So I think I'm also going to give this an Earth Ring. I'm very torn to say fire, and the reason I think ultimately is because it's air fire as the roles for this. It
Highly
obviously is a very
contested.
strong effect, but those are both very highly contested province rings or elements,
Yes.
and I just I think that it's very strong. I think it definitely will see a lot of play.
Breaking news.
I think breaking news. Magistrate Station is in fact on the restricted list. So unless they're choosing that as the restricted card, I think that this is going to be a fire ring. It's going to be all the fire ring cards.
Being reminded of the restricted list, does that change your vote at all?
No, because I will just say this card's value is solely what is placed on top of it. Because if you hit one of your provinces on top of this and they just break it turn 1 because it's 3 strength, all the value of this card is just gone. Because that's my only problem with eminent prominences. Yes, they have like generally really strong abilities, but most of the time it relies on what is actually placed on top of it, and because there is very few ways to manipulate what you can put on it.
So I think that ultimately, it's a really powerful effect, right? And if there's not going to be another fire province that they need to have instead, I think this is going to be the Korean Fire Province. Coming up next, we have the first dragon card from the new pack. This is a unique character called Kitsuki Chiari. Kitsuki Chiari is a 2-cost character with 1 military skill, 2 political skill, 1 glory, and the courtier archetype. It also has no poison attachments. It has reaction. After a province you control is revealed, choose an opponent and name a card. Reveal 4 random cards in that opponent's hand and discard each copy of the named card revealed this way. Firstly, I would like to, for those of you not in the know on who Kitsuki Chiari is, Chiari was in the old lore instrumental in discovering the plot that Shoju had committed to essentially steal the throne. But depending on whose side of you're looking at, Chiari was the one who decoded the Scorpion plot that resulted in the emperor being assassinated with Kunshu, which is a thing that we've seen happen. So I do expect Chiari to be super relevant in something lore wise coming up now that she's a card in the book, if she hasn't already been one. But as far as the card goes, I think she for a 2 for a 1/2, I think that she has some relevant keywords if the Dragon Courtier archetype ever comes out ahead. But I think we're probably going to see an air ring for me. The ability is potentially very good. Having your opponent discard some cards. Brendan?
I'm up on the air in this card. I'm gonna rate it an air ring. Maybe one day it'll see play. I've been so negative pretty much this stream, but I just feel like it's a void card. But maybe, I mean, being able to peek your hand at your opponent, get hand knowledge is never a bad effect. It's basically potatoed if it's dishonored. It's a 2-coster, so it's easily killed by most other kill effects, if not like just assassinations, but other because you're never going to heavily fate this card. So other stuff that removes fate or kills characters without fate on it, which is something that normally will happen to this card more often rather than not, because you're not trying to really put a lot of influence on this card. Like Brandon said, maybe if a courtier archetype ever becomes the real deck, maybe, but I don't really see it.
Over to Drew.
I think the only reason this card is bad is because it's unique. Overall, like I said in the last podcast on Pack 2, the new theme that they seem to be going for is on province reveal. They have a lot of cards that hide provinces again. They have a lot of cards that react to provinces being revealed. I really feel like this is the archetype that FFG is trying to push with Dragon coming into the new sets. But as long as Tower.deck exists with the new Stronghold, High House of Light, or whatever it is, I don't think that deck will come to fruition. I'm gonna give this air just because, like you both have said, a courtier deck does not exist yet, but I feel like it's coming in the future. I feel like an on province reveal deck is coming in the future. It's just not here yet. So I'm giving it air. On to Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go air. Because I don't know, the kind of way I think of this card is just almost a worse version of Meek Informant, and I feel like I know it's in a different clan, but I feel like that card barely sees play.
Now, Ronnie, if I can interject, why do you compare it to Meek Informant?
Just because the main strength of this card is just the reveal, hand knowledge, because they both basically do the same thing. Yes, you may get a card with this to make them discard, but and also this card's strength is only if you see it earlier. Because if you see this after, at late game when all your provinces are revealed, this card is absolutely useless.
Now, I will just gently remind you that Dragon have gotten a lot of cards recently that hide revealed provinces again.
True, but
and by a lot, I mean 2.
Yeah, and I don't think those 2 cards are. We have previously talked about one of those 2 cards, and I believe our consensus was that card wasn't strong enough to see play. maybe it makes the cut in like, but I just don't know where that archetype is yet.
I don't know who I am anymore. So coming up next, we have the 5th card of a 5-part cycle over multiple sets and expansions. This is a 0-cost event called Mantra of Void, the 5th and final mantra to come out. It is a 0-cost event, conflict side. It has the Kehoe and Void traits, and it says reaction. After an opponent declares a Void conflict, choose a monk character or a character with a monk attachment, which is to say the exact same thing that the rest of the mantra said. Except the Void one says, until the end of the conflict, reduce the cost to play attachments on that character by 1 and draw a card. Which also all of the other mantras replace themselves. Brendan, what is your hot take on this Void mantra?
My hot take on this Void mantra is not really playing the clan. I see that I don't want to call it a fire card. I'm close to it. I think it's a high earth for me. Being able to play attachments for 1 less, especially in a clan where it's a very attachment heavy clan, to do kind of like your combo effects off with other monks, or just having a giant tower, and just being able to draw a card off of that as well is very strong. It doesn't cost you anything. I mean, I guess the hoop you have to jump through is that you have to have a monk character or a character with a monk attachment. That's not really a hoop. Monk dock deck, basically, you have nothing but those things in play usually. And if your opponent is trying to like get rid of those tower characters that I was just talking about, they like have to go avoid ring at some point. If they don't already have like remove fate effects from a character like built into the deck, which outside of dragon, it's not a lot. So I mean, you're really, the only thing that you'll have to jump through with this card is having it in your hand, which isn't really a hoop. That's why I think it's a pretty strong card. Does it fit into a deck? Who's to say? But I think you should at least try and find some kind of room for it, especially because we've seen the mantras, especially I believe it's mantra of fire, if I'm not mistaken, be starting to see some fringe play in some dragon decks I've seen floating around on the online stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I think this is a really good mantra, honestly.
I'm gonna build off of what Brendan already said, but I'm gonna commit to the fire ring, especially in the current meta where actually of all characters, Tadakatsu is seeing a lot of play in like tower dot deck and all that for dragon. This is one of the most declared rings. The Void Ring is one of the most contested rings because getting rid of your opponent's dudes is huge. Having a monk character, oh no, the horror. Dragon have so many monks or monk attachments that they attach. Think of Tattooed Wanderer. Think of Ancient Master. Those are the big 2 that immediately come to mind that every deck pretty much, in my time, talking like an old man, had 3 of each in. Like, I just don't see this card not seeing play. At worst, it says draw a card. It at worst says your deck is 37 cards, and that's huge. Same reasoning with logistics. This card is great. It's a fire ring. Moving on to Ronnie.
I think I'm gonna go water on this one. To be fair, I haven't seen like a whole bunch of Dragon played, but the mantras to me have just always been like these like seemingly niche cards. Like to say what Brendan said, like for attachments got 1 less, you could also just play Damio's Favor because it does the same thing. I'm personally just not sure about this card.
I think ultimately I'm going to put this at an air ring. I think that Brendan does make a lot of good points about this card. I think that it is potentially very effective, and I think even I would be willing to go out and say that it is head and shoulders the best mantra that they've printed. But up until this point, I have never personally seen somebody playing a serious dragon deck play a mantra against me. It's never happened. I don't think that the nature of the design space of the cycle of the mantras is it's only good after they hit a void conflict, and so having your attachments cost 1 less is completely irrelevant sometimes when an opponent has, when it's their last conflict of the round and you've already done yours and you don't have a character to defend. And I think that it is just too niche of a card design space to be really good in constructive play. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll see play, but I think that it'll get tested a bit and then fall off the radar just like every other mantra ever has been.
But it also draws you a card, dude.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
all the mantras
all the
do.
mantras
All
have
of
always
them
replaced
do.
themselves. Cards replacing themselves is good. I think this is too situational, and that's why I voted in airing. Coming up next, we have, of course, the second card of the Shrewd cycle. This is a Dragon Dynasty character, Shrewd. Yes, I mean Investigator, which is a 1-cost character with 0 military skill, 1 political skill, and 2 glory. Hooray! And in addition, it is a courtier. This card has action during a conflict in which this character is participating. Look at X random cards in your opponent's hand. X is equal to the number of face down provinces you control. Brendan?
My God. I mean, it's like a literal worse Meek informant. It's Dynasty. It can be uber potatoed because you have to get over an extra skill to get back into the positive. X is equal to the number of face down provinces you control, which in earlier turns can be great. But if this shows up in like round 3, you're basically cooked. Realistically, like Meek Informant just says, look at their hand. Shrewd Investigator says, I'm bad.
Solid. Drew, what are your thoughts?
Again, I really want the archetype of courtier dragon with hand tech, with hand hate tech to be a possibility. Right now, it is not. With these 3 cards that we've seen, or 2 rather, in this pack alone, it's just not enough. Yes, Dragon are getting into the archetype of Hydra Province. Yes, your opponent knows where it is, but we can turn it back face down, no problem. I just don't think it's good enough. I'm giving it void. It's a 1-cost 0/1 with 2 glory in a clan that doesn't interact with the glory stat. It's really bad. I'm going to give it void, and I'm going to move on to Ronnie.
Also void.
All right.
I understand that they're going with the Hydra province theme, but the more I think about it, how many on reveal provinces is Dragon running where they're going to get so much value out of it, since the Dragon province, that's the fire one that I currently forget the name of,
Restoration of balance.
Restoration of Balance, is an on break province now as opposed to a reveal.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to dissent from the pack here, and
There's
I'm going to
no
say
way.
I'm going to say Air Ring.
You mother.
And hear me out on this. In a world where Imperial Palace is banned, this is a 1-cost courtier, which could potentially be relevant as far as keywords are concerned, that has 2 glory and is never going to fight in a conflict ever because it's garbage. So it's kind of like paying 1 for an Imperial Palace. Maybe on that alone, if you need courtiers for some reason,
Wouldn't
it could
you rather just
potentially
pay
one day
money
see.
to advance the game state?
No,
Yeah.
I hate advancing the game state. I'm an ex-Scorpion player,
But-
Brendan. Clearly, that's not what I'm into. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that this will happen. Realistically, this is a void ring for sure. But I don't want to give up. There has to be hope somewhere.
I mean, just look at the art on this card. It looks like a dad who's found a jewel in his teenager's bedroom and he doesn't know what it is.
How could he not know what it is? He's so shrewd. Dragon is grasping at straws and will be for a long time. Who's to say they won't play a 1-cost character that fucking has
that is
glory
actually a
for no
valid
other
point.
reason?
All right, jumping into the next card of the pack, it is Makeshift War Camp. It is a 1-cost battlefield attached to an unbroken province. Limit 1 battlefield attachment per province. That is a normal restriction for the battlefield keyword. During conflicts at attached province, each participating character you control gets +2 military skill. Brendan for the first hot take.
What is this card? Why do you have this? I mean, my socks are on fire. You can just put a fire thing. I mean, I don't see how this card. I mean, I really want to test this card out of Crab, with a Lion Splash, even though it is three koalas, banana leaves, bamboo stalks, whatever you want to call it. 3 influence onto your tax, but each character you get gets +2 to either attacking the attached province or defending the attached province. That this basically reads a 1 cost like anthem for attack or defense. There's no way you can convince me otherwise that this card is bad. I mean, sure, it can be like let go'd or like attachment hated. Great. They're using their attachment hate on a card that like you paid 1 for, rather than like my Jade Tetsubos, which cost 2 and give me lots of military stats and kill your characters, or watch commanders that tax your honor. Yeah, I don't know. This card's insane. I really like this I really like this card. And normally I'm not a huge fan of the battlefield cards, but this one just gets me. Oh, over to Drew.
There's not a whole lot I'm gonna say about this card. It's a fire card through and through. This card is nuts. Like Brendan said before me, it can be on attack or defense. It's a battlefield. That's going to be a huge keyword in the coming cards. I already know it. It's a 1 cost. It helps your attack or defense. It's an insane card. Like Brendan also said, it can be let go. The horror. Really not concerned about this being let go, but if it is, I am a little sad. Overall, I think it's a fire card. I think it should be a 3-of in almost every deck. On to Ronnie.
God, do I love this card. Slap that fire ring. You know what? This is the first card I'm going to say on this podcast. This is a cheat jam 4.
Ronnie, that's illegal.
I know. I do love this card. I honestly do think, even though it's 3, it might see, like, as Brendan said, Test and Crab, and I could, like, even in Unicorn. Can you imagine having this and Cav reserves in your hand with Forfeit? Like, oh, hot damn.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to be the one to dissent from the group here.
Oh my God, Brandon.
How?
Can we just have this as a sound clip?
How?
There's no way it's anything but fire. Don't you
look.
dare.
Okay, so what I want to say, firstly, let me say the negative things about this card. Okay. So secondly, I'm going to say this is the best bonsai they've ever printed. And holy shit, this is the fire strength card that has ever been.
Just because,
and Brendan, I think you're completely correct. I think that this, even at 3 influence, I think that this might even be a 3-of in Unicorn and maybe Crab. Like, Crab Swarm, like little dudes might have just gotten their anthem back. I don't want to get my hopes up, but like, wow.
Even
what
with Cooney Labs on the RL.
Yeah. Like, this is a card. It's pretty spicy. I'm very excited. That's all I got to say.
Are you
just
ready
for
to
all
fire?
of you at home listening to this? Brandon
is super great at jokes. The end. Thanks.
All right, the next lion card of this pack is Master Tactician. It is a 5-cost 5/5 with 3 glory. He's a Bushi commander. During conflicts, this is a passive ability. During conflicts in which this character is participating, if there is a battlefield in play, you may look at and play the top card of your conflict deck as if it were in your hand. You cannot play more than 3 cards per round this way.
If
Brendan,
only there was
for the
a
first
single
hot take.
good battlefield in the game.
If only. Brendan for the first hot take.
I kind of don't want to say too much to steal the thunder away from Drew and Ronnie, our resident Lion players. The one thing I will say is the fact that when this card was initially spoiled, which I believe it was in the original FFG article, if I'm not mistaken, the fact that the community, by and large, was like, but it costs 5 SpongeBob meme as like a real cost, got me so rustled in my jimmies in like ways that I cannot even describe. This card is bizarre. It's a 5/5 for 5 with Bushi Commander and 3 glory. You could just stop there.
So I think it's incredibly important to note, though, that for all of our non-New England viewers, jimmies are kind of like sprinkles or hundreds of thousands, except they only come in chocolate flavor. If they're rainbow colored, then they are called sprinkles, just like the rest of the world calls them.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Preach.
Moving on, this card is fire. This card is volcanically like hot, and anyone who says otherwise is bad at the game. You can come at me. I don't really care. Drew?
It is here, dear viewers, where I, Brandon, unfortunately must interrupt the cast by hiding our deepest and darkest shames. If you have any guesses as to what those deepest and darkest shames are, perhaps you could comment below or like and subscribe. But thanks for listening, and it'll be back to your regularly scheduled Drew's Opinion Online cards starting about now.
Preface this: I was 86th in the world at the World Championship because that
Yeah.
clearly is a denominator of how good I am. This
I
card
had
is
a nickel for every time Drew brings that up on this podcast.
that was once. You would have a nickel.
No.
I mean,
On this
if you want to
podcast,
talk
you would
about
actually
World,
just have a nickel.
if you want to talk about Worlds 2019, Brendan, have I got a story?
Moving on. Nope, we're not going into this story. This card overall, Master Tactician, is nuts. If you are playing a deck that is not built around getting this card in play and seeing it in play as long as possible, you're more than likely wrong. I have played many a deck, and people have told me many a times that because I slot him in, the deck is wrong. They are wrong. This card is nuts. Sometimes the top card of your deck isn't ideal. That's a deck building issue. That is not a Master Tactician issue. You want to build decks around this card. This card is nuts. It is a fire ring. That is about all I'm going to say on it. On to Ronnie.
Right behind you, Drew. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say because, like, yeah, even sometimes the top card is not the best card for you right now, and that may not even be a deck issue. That may just be this card's good. It's just not particularly good in this situation. But just this card says basically always have an extra card that's actually like just not even in your hand. It's ridiculous.
It doesn't
And
say have an extra card.
massive.
It says has 3.
Oh,
It
right,
says
right.
have 3
It has
extra cards.
3. To be fair, you have to play one to get the other one.
So I think drawing cards is probably the strongest mechanic in any card game, and I think that effectively the way that most decks that run this card are going to be built is going to have this effectively say draw 3 cards. And in those decks, absolutely 100% it is a fire ring. Overall, I think it might be less than that because there may be other archetypes or things that don't end up playing them for some reason. But and there are Lion does have some good 5-drops, but I just can't imagine a world where you wouldn't want to play this. So I think that I'm also giving this I'm giving this a fire ring for sure. Yeah.
We just have so many cards, like ways to cheat cards in. Like we
Yeah,
don't have
for sure.
cards
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean,
Like still,
Plus,
For
plus
sure.
this card gives you like deck knowledge on your next like draw phase, right? So like
Well,
if you
At
I mean, it
yeah,
worst, it's
as a
see your
fringe
next
benefit,
card.
yeah.
it
Yeah.
does. So
Well,
more
only I
benefit.
mean, yeah, but if it's like the first card you see, then you're not drawing any cards, and instead you're just getting to look at a card you'll see next turn, which is kind of garbage. But
I mean,
Yeah.
then you just bid 2.
I mean
Out of
at
whatever,
worst.
right?
yeah,
I mean,
firing all the way. I think that card's good.
I will
Um,
say I have been playing Honor Runner as I like to dub it, Honor Grinder a lot, where you just kind of incrementally gain honor over time using characters like Hero of the Trees and Chronicler of Conquest.
Yeah,
this
I can
card
really
has
get
been
behind
huge.
Grinder.
This card has been a huge piece of that puzzle where sometimes you're locked in this bid 1 battle, but you got a makeshift war camp, or you got a Field of Ruin, or you got a Hidden Moon Dojo on a stick out, and you just have that battlefield active, and you just see the next card, and you know, I'm going to bid 2 next phase, or I'm going to bid 1 and still be fine with this. This card is nuts. Our next Lion card of this pack is Shori. It is a 2-cost 4/1 attachment. It is a weapon attached to a unique lion character you control, or just a unique lion character. It's ancestral. It's restricted. If attached character has the champion trait, it gains. You may declare an additional military phase each conflict phase. Brendan, first hot take.
Card's really good. It's 2 for 4/1. I mean, it has the same issue that most like 2-cost attachments have as an issue of costing 2, and there's plenty of attachment hate in like almost all factions as of right now. But I mean, getting able to declare an extra military conflict each phase is nothing to shake a stick at. And if I'm not mistaken, Drew and Ronnie, if you could correct me, you guys have 3 available champions to you to get that off, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We have 2
Two.
lion champions. I don't know if there
If
are any
you'd
neutral
ha-
champions. There may be
Well,
Yoritomo.
Totori. Oh, Totori and Yoritomo, but
So
we'd
we
have to put
technically
a
have
seal
4.
on them.
We technically have 4 if we have Seal of the Lion in our deck.
So I mean, there you go. And I mean, in like a really like, it's ancestral, so you get it back. It does have restricted, but I mean, in a most terrible sense, it's 2 for 4/1, which again is still not bad. Like even if you're playing it on a non-champion, it's fucking 4 in red. So, I don't know. I'll play it. I mean, especially with like the Lion Tower deck not being as strong as it once was. I still think being able to declare extra mill conflicts and being able to restand your guys to go in for those extra mill conflicts is something that should not be overlooked. So I'll put this as a high earth, maybe a low fire if I really had more like clan knowledge of the decks currently running in Lion. But I mean, I'll leave that to our resident Lion players, Ronnie and Drew. But over to Drew.
So, I have words about this card. Words being that this card is good overall, but bad in practice.
I was right, kind of.
Kind of. So, I have played with this card since it was leaked in an FFG article. I have tried and tried and tried. Just in my short research while Brendan was talking, we only actually have access to 3 champion cards. We have Totori, Akoto Totori. I don't know if his neutral version is a champion.
It is a champion.
It is a champion. But that doesn't matter because we can only have 3 of him in the deck regardless. Akoto Totori, either neutral or lion. Matsusuka, who is a champion commander, I believe. And Yoritomo, who we're not going to run because
he would have to have a seal.
He would have to have a Seal of the Lion, which is not a bad card. I ran Seal of the Lion at Worlds. Great card. Because it gives commander. It's just really rough to get off. You could, in theory, win turn 1 with this card.
Oh, you mean because you're also running the stronghold that lets you get one?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
So
the crane card?
You run HMT, you run this, you run Ivory Kingdom's Unicorn, you run it on Air Province. You get Echoes, you get Totori off of Echoes because of some bullshit. I don't remember. There has been a total of 1 instance where this card has been like, man, this feels good to play. I love the card. I love Shori. I want it to be really good. But I'm gonna give it water just from playtesting. Just because, yes, it's a 2 for a 4/1 attachment on a unique Lion character. Lion have so many unique characters this could attach to. It is restricted, not the end of the world. In the Tower deck, it's a great little buff. You can really push forward. It's 2 katanas for like defend your honor and stuff. But all around, I'm gonna give it water. Because again, it's one of those cards that you get the magical Christmas bells, but it's just a 2-cost 4/1 attachment at the end of the day. Sometimes you get the champion effect off, but it's very rare. I want to love it more, but I'm going to give it water just because you could build your deck around this, but I don't feel like it's going to be that effect is going to be strong enough to really make it into every deck. I'll pass it on to Ronnie.
I do like this card. Yeah, I kind of agree that I will say that of the, I believe it's 3 clan swords that we have now, I wholeheartedly believe this is the best one. Like, not by a long shot, because I think the Phoenix one was all right, and the Crane one seems so irrelevant that I have no idea what it actually does. But I think the fact that it has 4 red, I kind of want to go Earth, because worst comes to worst, you slap this on Matsuaga Toki, and you've basically paid 5 for an 8/3, and that seems pretty scary to me.
So moving on to me, like, I can't. It's a 2-cost attachment. It's a good 2-cost attachment. Maybe even, given the circumstances and the ability, the best 2-cost attachment. But at the end of the day, it's still a 2-cost attachment. And even if it does see play with its ability to be attached to a grand total of 2 characters without extra attachments, I just don't I just don't see it being played. Even if both of those characters are very good and see play a lot, I would expect very, very unlikely to see this happen if it weren't like a one of in an an obscure spot. So I'm gonna have to give this an airing. Maybe it'll see play more, maybe it won't. It probably won't. And if like if attachment removal doesn't get a massive overhaul, I don't think this is ever going to see play consistently in top tier decks.
On our next spree of cards, coming in the third pack of the Dominion cycle in Pursuit of Truth, we have the Phoenix cards. This first Phoenix card we have is the Student of the Tao. It is a 3-cost Dynasty character that has 1 military skill, 2 political skill, 3 glory, and the keywords Shigenja, Void, and Scholar. Ooh, spicy. She has the rally keyword. She also has action. During a conflict, add a Void province. Usually Void provinces are very good. Choose a character you do not control. No interaction. Even better. Move that character home. My hot takes on this card. This card, I think it has all the relevant keywords for Phoenix, right? It has Shigenja. The fringe like scholar benefits are starting to come into the clan. It does have a 3 glory stat, which is kind of tough. They don't really interact. They don't really like glory their dudes that much. I mean, there are cards that do like honor their guys, but usually they're temporary effects rather than just flat honor off Crane cards. But being able to move a character home that is attacking one of your Void provinces, or to move a defender home while you are on the attack, is not something that you can scoff at. Even if this card is potatoed, it still has that text box, and it has rally. So that just bumps it up to like really good for value. My hot take on this card is to put it as a high earth card, if not a fire card. And I will pass it over to Drew, who will claim he is a Phoenix player.
Brendan makes the joke of how I claim to be the resident Phoenix player. I went to a Grand Championship and I placed 5th overall playing Echo Bird, but without charge. I played Tadaka instead because Tadaka fucks. Student of the Tao, rally is just a strong keyword. We're going to get it out of the way. It's a strong keyword. It's a 3-drop Shigenja Void Scholar. It has the relevant keywords like Brendan said. Just based off this card, which I'm fairly certain the Meek Informant, friends of ours, revealed to the world. This card is okay at best. I'm going to give it water because I just don't see it seeing much play, but I do see it seeing play if you make all 5 of your provinces void. Imagine you have all 5 of your, or at least all 4, your 4 home provinces void. So you just keep bouncing people off of your home provinces. You make them all void. You keep bouncing people off. You're able to survive long enough to build up to your end game plan, whatever it may be. I think this card is water. I think it's a very flexible pick, especially in that very specific case scenario. I'm going to pass it off to Ronnie on that note.
I am tempted just to give this. Yeah, I'm just gonna give this a water, a 3-cost, like basically potato with those stats and that glory. Yeah, Reli's super great, but the more I think about it, the void provinces you're gonna bounce someone off of. Like, yeah, if you happen to use this to block on a shameful display and then you just honor it, dishonor the other guy, and then just kick him out. Great Christmas Land scenario, but I don't think the actual action is strong enough to overpower the crippling stats.
Indeed. As I would take a look at this card, I would say that mountains beget streams. The water cycle deepens to evaporate into the air. I would say that this card's neat. It's like, it has some things going for it. Certainly, if you haven't hit rally cap somehow, yeah, play it as a 3 of. But if that's not the case, you're probably not going to use it for its text, outside of maybe that it's a scholar that Suki can honor with the water ring. But Suki is the best part of this card. That's when not taking into the rally context. So for a 3-cost 1/2, I don't think it's ever going to see play if you're not using it exclusively for the rally cap benefit.
So the next card we have in the pack for Phoenix is a 0-cost attachment called Studious. It gives you 0 military skill, 1 political skill. It is a conflict card that requires 1 blip of influence, or 1 bamboo stalk, or 1 koala if you are from New England. It is a condition that requires you to attach it to a scholar character. The attached character gains the Serenity keyword, or the Serenity trait, which allows you to draw a card once this character leaves play, and they also get reaction after this character wins a conflict. Draw 1 card. So effectively, this card gives you a pull pump plus draw 2 cards. My hot take. My hot take on this card is it's good. We know that scholars are starting to get a little more love from the more recent Phoenix packs and probably future Phoenix packs. I would want to say that it costing 0 and giving you a pull pump, even though it's just 1, pull is a skill that is not unknown to be pretty strong in Phoenix. They're usually a pretty mid-range clan to begin with, if not more leaning towards the blue stat or the red stat, depending on your deck build. It requiring a scholar might be a bit of a hiccup. Although I do believe the seals of Phoenix give you the scholar trait. Am I wrong?
You'd be
It does.
correct.
Okay. So, I mean, if worst comes to worst, if you don't really have viable scholars yet, you could force it with seals, although that does run you to the issue of if they let go that seal that gives you the scholar keyword, you lose both. So it's a 2-for-1 against you. But both don't cost anything. So take that as you will. Being able to draw 2 cards is a really good effect, especially giving you a pull pump. You really probably wouldn't want to play this card on something other than at least a 3-drop anyway. So you winning that conflict, I mean, depending on your matchup against, if it's like a crane or even a lion or a scorpion, that's kind of tough. But basically, this is a free draw a card, if not 2 cards, if you can get this character into another conflict somehow. Or no, you can only react that once. So forget I said that. This is at least draw 2 cards against Unicorn and Crab for free, pretty much, as well as, against Lion, dependent on their build. So my hot take is the card's a Earth card. Solid, but might not see everywhere. Kind of depends on the current Scholar cards, which aren't that strong, plus any future ones that we might be getting. Over to Drew.
Just because of the attached to a scholar condition, even though this is a condition, which is funny. I can only see this as a water ring because scholar is such a kind of a niche keyword. Even though Phoenix is getting more of those characters, they only really interact with a handful of scholars. Getting sincerity and draw a card if you win a conflict is huge. That's 2 cards per turn, or 2 cards on the turn it dies, or a card a turn is kind of big. But all around, I just see it in the scholar-based deck, which I don't see much of right now. So I'm going to give it water. I'm going to give it a flexible pick. I think it's a good card. I just don't think it's going to be sitting everywhere. On to Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. I'm gonna go water. I will say that I do like the idea of like fleshing out the scholar for Phoenix. I do like them like fleshing out like their like core trait they have for each clan. I'm just not sure how strong this card is currently in the meta.
I think that drawing cards is definitely good, and I definitely reserve the right to change my opinion on this card if I'm like super off base here. But as it currently stands, there are 3 total playable scholars in the game, as in terms of that Phoenix can play. And while drawing cards is really good, I think actually, not only there are 3 total playable scholars in Phoenix, one of them already has sincerity. Those being, of course, Asako Naive Student, and Solemn Scholar. And I don't see this card ever really taking off because it is attached to a scholar. If it didn't have attached to a scholar, I think sky's the limit. Water, maybe even a low earth, but maybe I'll be proved wrong, and I definitely reserve the right to change my opinion should more better scholars come out, and like a real scholar archetype happens. But I'm not holding my breath with like the 15 or so scholars that exist, considering that they're almost all universally garbage.
All right.
So
Yeah,
Void Ring
I
it
don't know.
is.
You've converted me. I mean, I'll put mine as air. I'll switch mine to air. I mean, I guess It's just not overall as good as I think after
Yeah.
hearing what you guys have said. But I mean,
The biggest
I think support for it is coming though.
yeah, support for it might be coming, but the real math of it is, I looked through while you were talking. I looked through all of the scholars that Phoenix has access to, including the neutral one, and they're all garbage except for Suki, Naive Student, and Solemn Scholar. Every single one of them is complete unplayable trash, or that new one that we just reviewed. And there's just no fucking way that this would be good enough, because you're
Yeah.
not gonna fucking play Seal of the Phoenix to give something a scholar and this.
No,
It's
I mean
just,
it's the
there's
same.
no
It's
way.
the same. It's the same problem with like all the running any of the seals, right? They could
Yeah.
just let it go, and then that you lose both. Which I,
Yeah.
for one, will go
Yeah.
on record as saying that is a dumb interaction because it is checking the attachment thing at the play, not as a static. But they ruled it that way because FFG is bad at words and rulings.
Yeah, I am also gonna go air because I legitimately thought the unique 05 that could switch stats was also a scholar.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, I for some reason thought it was.
Nope. There's only 3 unique scholars. They're Asako Chogama, which I bet you can't tell me what it does,
Nope.
Asako Suki, and Chukan Nobue, which I bet you can't tell me what Nobue does either.
Can I
Uh,
find
Probably
what-
bad things.
You know what else is a scholar? That 0-0 with 2 glory.
Yikes.
Oh yeah.
That 0-0. I thought that was a Bushi.
Nope.
No, fire
It's a
tensei
fire scholar
initiate.
Shugenja.
Alrighty.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Changed mine to an air.
Ronnie
I was saying
changes to air.
Yeah.
Sorry I brought the curve down so hard. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you made a good argument.
I
Ronnie
And
did.
you put in the
Yeah.
research that I couldn't do because it's a hot take.
Brandon,
True.
were you still void?
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Alright.
Yeah, card garbage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Delete,
One day
cut, cut,
though, if when the scholar thing takes off though, for sure, I do just want to say, definitely this card is going to be an Earth card, like definitely.
Yeah.
But just like fucking no, there needs to be 5 good scholars, and currently there are 2.5.
Yep.
Studi.
Ooh.
Can we just? Do you want to just loop the last conversation and fucking move on? Okay.
I mean, it'll just make this review go that much faster, right?
My God.
All right. Yep. 3, 2, 1.
Let's jam.
The next card in the pack that we have for Phoenix is called Study the Natural World. It is a 2-cost event or conflict side that costs 2 blips of influence on your influence track. It has an action during a conflict in which you control an attacking scholar character. Here we go, boys. The contested ring gains each of the attacked province's elements. If you win the conflict, you may resolve each of the contested ring's effects. So as we said on the last review of the previous card, scholars haven't really gotten that much of any sort of real backing as of late. This, along with more eminent provinces being, coming up where they have multiple elements, you being able to attack an off element off those, and then kind of having 3 different ring effects to choose from for 2 sounds pretty strong. But I mean, again, you need to have an attacking scholar and you have to win the conflict. So as of right now, that kind of puts me at, again, an air for me. If it gets more support in the future, which I hope it does, more power to it. I can see this as being a very, very powerful effect if that does come to fruition. But as we've seen before, FFG kind of will seem to be steering something into being a cool thematic kind of push, and then suddenly drop it all together. Composure. That's for me. Hot takes, Drew.
I'm kind of in the same boat, but I'm gonna give it water.
Really?
Mainly based off the fact that, I feel like there are a handful of scholars that see play, but you don't really attack with them. Generally, you're kind of on the passive end, except for Suki, where you just attack water no matter what. Um, I just feel like this is slowly becoming a niche archetype of Scholar Phoenix instead of like Seeker of Void, Shigenja Phoenix. It's slowly becoming more of like a grouped pairing of how many cards can I shove in a Scholar deck that it's becoming a niche archetype. I wouldn't say up in the air because it's starting to solidify, but I'm gonna say it's a very flexible pick of do I want to go Shigenja Phoenix? Do I want to go Scholar Phoenix? That's why I'm going water. I'm gonna pass it off to Ronnie.
Gonna go air because I just, like as we said before, I don't think the Scholar is there yet. And yeah, if Scholar gets to be like as prevalent as like Commander is for Lion, then I do think this card will see some like more play. To be fair, that might not even happen. They could just print like the worst Scholar cards from here on out. So yeah, I don't think I can give it at this moment any higher than air.
So I'm pretty in the Void Ring. One, it's a very expensive event. It costs 2. 2, it is gated multiple times, which surprisingly it's a Phoenix card, not a Lion card. But you have to be in a conflict that you control an attacking Scholar. So not only do you have to have a good Scholar, which of which there are 3 that you don't even attack with most of all the time, as Drew said. You have to be in the conflict with that specific Scholar attacking. You have to want the effect of whatever rings you are or the ring of whatever the province that you are attacking, which means if you are face down, there's like no planning involved. Granted, you do it during the conflict, but you're gonna have to justify spending 2 fate to do it. And on top of all of that, you don't even get anything if you don't win the conflict. So like I think that maybe when enough Scholars happen, this card will be good. Currently, I think this card is unplayable garbage, which is why I'm in the Void Ring role. And maybe, like I said, it'll be good with Scholars, but there would probably need to be 5 or 6 good and aggressive Scholars for this card to be actually like good, like decently playable, which couldn't even happen until like mid 2021 at this point, considering we're 4/6 of the way through the pack already, and there isn't one in sight. There's only 3 currently playable ones, and Scholars by general like nature and design space aren't generally speaking very aggressive. Usually they're like very contemplative and defensy and scholarly. So like it's not going to happen. Void all the way. Coming up next, we have some of the Scorpion cards for the pack. And as the previous Scorpion player that I was, let me start with this 2-cost, 2/2. So 2 military skill, 2 political skill, and 1 glory card called Curse Catcher. It is a Shugenja. It has the air element, and it is a Seeker role only. Of course, it being a Dynasty character. This card has Interrupt. When the effects of a province triggered ability would initiate, if that province has any face down cards in it, cancel those effects. Brendan, your thoughts before I get going.
Card's bad. It forces you into a role. It's a dynasty card, and you have to have face down cards in it. I mean, let's think, right? So rally cards, you're probably more often to have face up cards, but those don't block you from having face down cards on your provinces. So, I mean,
Yeah, they do. Well, they don't block you, but you can't have a rally. You can't have used rally if you have any face down cards.
well, what if you just played one, right?
Then if you rallied, then
all
you'd have
those
2.
stay
Yeah,
face up. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it does block that. Yeah, this card's trash. Drew,
Solid. Void Ring. Drew, you have any hot takes on this guy?
Want it to be good. It's a 2-cost Shugenja out of Scorpion. I mean, I can't see this card being good.
Solid. Void then. Nice. Ronnie?
Is on to Ronnie.
Yeah, Void.
Void? Okay.
There's nothing more I can really say about this card.
Yeah. And
Brandon
obviously,
with like real reasons, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go Void too. I mean, ultimately, the 2-drop slot, while there are still 2-drops that aren't unbanned, because eventually all the cards are gonna get banned in Scorpion because they fucking hate them. And nobody can fucking learn how to play against Dishonor. It's fine. I'm not bitter.
Just
It's
ban City of the Open
yeah,
Hand.
They're never gonna do it. Because just no. There's the secret role requirement, the very wonky ability to interrupt the province effects. Like most provinces, there are better ways to get around it. Just all in all, card is it's unplayable garbage. Which brings us to our next Scorpion card. So our next Scorpion card coming up is a province. It has a 5 strength, and it is an eminent province for Scorpion that has both the air and the water rolls, called Silent One's Monastery. Also, it is unique, which is incredibly important with provinces. Said no one. So as an eminent province, this card starts the game face up, and you can't turn it face down ever, and it can't be a stronghold province. And every opponent cannot gain more than 2 honor each phase. Neat. Brendan, what are your thoughts?
Card's insane, right? I mean, it's a 5 strength eminent province. Oh, it's each phase. Not
It is
round.
each phase. If it were each turn, oh man.
Each phase, it's in what? I mean, it could be your water province, I guess. It's definitely not going to be your air province, that's for sure. I think it's up in the air for
Neat.
me. It really replaces anything on the row. It doesn't give you anything off like playing off of it. It's just a fat 5 stack boy or a fat 5 strength province that just kind of blocks your opponent out of gaining honor, which I guess is good, especially because City of the Open Hand has single-handedly warped the entire game and the clan into a pigeonhole. Oh, okay, Drew.
Yeah. No, I mean, hot take. City of the Open Hand's not that bad, and everyone just needs to man up, but it's fine. Drew, thoughts?
Moving on from that hot take from Brandon. Moving on from Brendan, however, I think this card's a solid card. More and more decks are becoming honor grinder decks. Specifically, I mean Lion, where they are gaining anywhere from 2 honor to 10 honor in a turn. It's pretty volatile when you think about it. This province specifically, it's a 5 strength province. A lot of clans can't poke into it, so it becomes a little bit harder. Yeah, you can farm off of it, but you can't just break it innately because it's a 5 strength. This is probably going to live through turn 1. And probably, once an eminent province lives through turn 1, it's a lot more likely to live through the following turns. I'm going to give this card a solid Earth, just because it can live through turn 1, it can stop honor runner decks, and it helps the Scorpion agenda of dishonoring people. I'm going to give it a solid Earth. On to Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there with you. I'm also gonna go Earth because shutting down I know honor may not be the strongest, but like just being able to say no just by placing the card down, I think is pretty great. And yeah, like just keeping them like from not being able to gain honor back from just being able to hemorrhage it. Even though that with a lot Scorpions been getting hit with the on the RL with this honor game, but I don't know. I still like the card.
Well, so as the resident Scorpion player, I have a few things to say about this card. The first thing that I want to say is I'm rating this a void card. Drew, please put up the void graphic. Now, that being said, here are the few things that I have to say. So the Silent Ones is actually a really super unique and very, very cool lore element that's like a tiny sect of the Brotherhood of Shinsei, which is like a global, not clan-related monk movement. And the Silent One Monastery is the place where they like hang out. And the cool thing about them is that they were like the Rokugani secret keepers, because they would take their vows, and as soon as an initiate finished taking their vow, their tongue would vanish from their mouth, and then they could never speak again. And it's just really neat and cool and flavorful, and I wish that they did something cooler with it. But it doesn't really. I mean, maybe the flavor I think of the card, is a little bit on point. But the reason I'm rating it a void ring and not where I think it probably should be in like the water ring is out of protest for the oppression that Scorpion is going under. But the card itself, I think, is a toolbox card. So maybe I would rate it, an air ring or something like that if it weren't in this position that it's in. But the negatives that I have against it are mostly that it's very, very situational. Against any deck that's not trying to gain honor, it's basically worthless. Two honor in a phase is an air ring. Nobody's going to try and gain more than that if they're not trying to gain honor as their win condition. And maybe someday it might be incredibly relevant for only Scorpion players. But the big problem is that with Secret Cache off the restricted list, there's no world where Scorpions aren't playing Secret Cache again, which means that this has to be your water province. And the water province is a really, really strong province in Scorpion for either being on the stronghold if you're going to be playing Midnight Revels or Rally or a couple other situations in the row, especially against really fast and brutal military style decks. So it's this card. I feel I find seeing more dead than not. But very neat lore card, and again, I'm rating it a Void Ring in protest because they need to stop banning every single card in my clan. That's what I got. The last card that we have coming out of Scorpion from this pack is an attachment, is a conflict attachment that costs 1. It adds 0 military skill and 1 political skill, and it's called Way with Words. Now, this is a technique. It requires that you are playing a water roll. It has water roll only, and it says that the attached character gains reaction after this character wins a political conflict. Take an honor from your opponent, Brendan.
So, my hot take on this card is it was a very strong, solid card before this most current restricted list and ban list. I was seeing multiple water roll Scorpion decks running Phoenix Splash, get a lot out of this card, especially with the card that also reads after you win a pull conflict take or take an honor from your opponent, which is Alibi Artist. Is that what it is?
No.
Yeah, Alibi Artist.
Blackmail
No.
artist. Blackmail artist is the
Blackmail
win a poll
artist.
conflict, take a
Yeah,
political conflict.
Blackmail Artist. I knew it was
take
artist.
take an honor. Yep.
Yeah, so people were playing this card, and it's like for each Blackmail Artist you take 2 from your opponent, which is effectively like a double air ring trigger off an air ring, so like a triple air ring trigger. A very strong thing to do. And it's in clan, so it doesn't really hemorrhage them in terms of any sort of like influence buffer. However, with the newest one in mind, I don't think this card is strong enough on its own without being able to sit back on kind of like your laurels of being able to display a power realistically, to kind of just go in for those assured pull attacks. So I'm going to put this as a water ring for me. That's my hot take. Do I think it could make it into a deck if you like force it in and you kind of like build your deck around sort of that kind of play style? Sure. Do I think it's a solid card or a jam 5 to where every Scorpion deck will be running it? I don't think so anymore, but we'll see what the rest of the podcast has to say. Maybe I'll change my mind accordingly. Over to Drew.
This card is good. Other than the water roll only, I think the strongest deck now, post restricted list with Bayushi Liar on the ban list and Shoju 2 on the restricted list, I'm not so sure. I'm going to give this card an Earth just because the effect is really good. But being water roll locked really limits what Scorpion can do. Sure, they can splash crab for stuff like Fight On or splash for like random other things, but they can't do the main combo that I've always seen out of Scorpion of Soul Beyond Reproach, Noble Sacrifice, which is really easy for them to do. All around, this is still a very good card. It's a 1 cost, 1 pull attachment. They don't care about that. They care about how much pull you have, not about how much pull they have. So being able to steal, especially with like cards like Blackmail Artist, like Brendan had said earlier, being able to steal honor is really good. But they're becoming more of a combo deck. They're less of a consistent grind like the Honor Line is becoming now, and like how they used to be. They're becoming more of a combo. Like, I need these cards to win the game. So I'm going to give it a solid Earth just because I think it's a good card in the current meta. But, subject to change. Pass it off to Ronnie.
I'm gonna go water. It's just like I do like the card, but it's just the water roll lock is just kind of like what kills me on it.
All right.
Brandon?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and rate this card a Void Ring. In, again, protest of all of the Scorpion cards getting banned. I think that this card is bonkers powerful if you're trying to dishonor your opponent. If you are playing a dishonor deck, in any capacity. If eventually, we have cards that allow you to dishonor and allow that game mechanic to be used again, that aren't just immediately banned as soon as they're printed, then yes, this card will be absolutely 100% a 3 of in all of those decks. So I would rate it somewhere between fire and earth. But the water roll is kind of detrimental, I think, in a couple ways. But I think that ultimately we're probably going to see this card just get banned immediately, or put on the restricted list because people are going to complain that they lose honor from it, even though Scorpion's been completely neutered.
Next card on our list is a unicorn card. It is Hunting Falcon. It is a 0-cost 1/0 attachment. It is a creature. Reaction: after this attachment enters play, choose a face-down province. Look at that province. Brendan for the first hot take.
I really like this card. I think it's a solid card. It gives you a mill stat for free. It only has a 1 blip on your influence. And you get to scout provinces, which realistically is like the most powerful effect or the most consistently powerful effect that we've seen in mostly unicorn cards, but also being able to play them in other clans is being very effective. Sort of the quintessential crab splashing unicorn for Uichi Wayfinders has always been a thing, but this just kind of giving your sort of mid-range or tower dudes that effect, essentially, while also giving you a mill stat to kind of fuel your either if I have more mill stat than you effects like a butcher, or just being able to fuel your defend your honors for counterspell effects. I think it's a really solid card. I'm gonna put it as a Earth Ring for my hot take, and I will throw it over to you, Drew.
Earth is the minimum I would rate this at.
Right?
I'm gonna rate this as fire. I'm giving this fire based off the fact it is a 0-cost attachment that lets him look at a province. That is huge, especially there's 2 types of unicorn I think about right now. There's HMT unicorn, which is like go fast, break all the province, I don't care what you do moments. And then there's scouted terrain unicorn, which is a little bit slower, but generally pop off around the same time. So this lets scouted terrain unicorn kind of peek at what they want to see. Let's say they bid 5 turn 1 and they see all 3 of these for whatever crazy reason. They're able to scout the 3 provinces that they're going to attack them in order, and then attack the stronghold province, no problem. This card is nuts. This card is insane. It's a 0-cost 1 military attachment, not restricted, 1 influence. This is huge. It's a fire ring. I'm going to move it on to Ronnie.
Yeah, I actually do like this card. Don't think I'm gonna give it a fire. I'm probably gonna go Earth on this. It's just like it's basically just half a Uichi Wayfinder for free, which I like. But yeah, I do like this card.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Drew and Ronnie and Brendan, obviously, in some respects. I think what Ronnie said is absolutely true. It is literally just a free UGA finder, except it can't initiate political conflicts or military conflicts. It can only add its UGA finder strength to a military conflict, but it is free instead. So I think that not only is this card going to see play as a multiple of in Unicorn, it's probably going to see play as a, splash anytime somebody Unicorn splashes and they're a deck that likes to attack, which is the only thing that's allowed in this game anymore. Then I think that we'll find that this card is going to be fire, and played in lots of places. So fire ring all the way from me.
The next unicorn card is Scholar of Old Rempent. It is a 1-cost 1/0 character. It is a Shugenja Water Scholar for 1 glory. It has Rally. Oh boy, it has Rally. As an action, during a conflict, lose 1 honor. Choose a non-unique character. That character is immune to events until the end of the conflict. Brendan for the first hot take.
No one cares about this card. I mean, if you need it for your rally critical mass, I guess. But like, it doesn't have cavalry on it. It definitely does not have the cavalry keyword. Have I said that it doesn't have the cavalry keyword enough? It's also like lose an honor and choose a single character. If this was like lose an honor or even like 2 honor and all your non-uniques are immune to events, that would be worth this card. But like maybe that's way too strong and I'm just like high off like horse poop. Just like the stench of horse musk in the stables. But it is not that. This is a void card. I would not bother running this in any sort of like unicorn deck alive. Over to you, Drew.
I agree. In the current meta, where HMT Unicorn is just the go fast deck, and even Scouted Terrain, which is the other deck I've said multiple times I've seen, this just doesn't make the cut. It's a Shugenja Water Scholar. None of those keywords make sense for Unicorn. It has Rally. That is the only benefiting feature of this card. I'm just gonna give it Void. On to Ronnie.
I'm gonna go Void. I'm not sure if like Rally is strong enough to push this card any higher than that.
If Rally isn't strong enough to push a card, you know it's bad, right?
Yeah, on to Brandon.
Yeah. So throwing this in the void. No, actually, you know what? No, to be honest, I think I am actually gonna break with this. I think I'm gonna say that this is an air card for 2 reasons.
Oh, I thought
Reason
he was
number
gonna
1.
say it's extra void.
Oh no. Reason number 1, Rally. Reason number 2, it is a Shugenja, and maybe one day a unicorn Shugenja theme will appear where they just want cheap Shugenja, and this is a cheap Shugenja. It is 1 for a 1/0. It is a body. It has the Shugenja keyword, so there's that. I think that the big thing, though, the one takeaway that I do have for this is that Rempet, specifically from like a lore perspective, is Egypt in the and like we had some rumblings kind of what eventually became of the Kingdom of Rempat in the Unicorn book, which is the Kamarists, which are the people who are like effectively Islam. They're the ones who had some help with defeating the well, actually, I don't really want to spoil the book for anyone who hasn't read the Unicorn book. Strongly recommend, great read. But yeah, the reason that this is a Unicorn card, Scholar of Old Rempet, is due to the fact that the Unicorn obviously were expelled from Rokugan, and they were on their journeys looking around, and some fun things happened to Shinjo no Kami, the Unicorn clan Kami, in Rempet, which caused it to not be a thing anymore, and that's why this is a scholar, because you can't just ask them. So basically, this is a unicorn archaeologist. How can it not be cool? This is Indiana Jones. But no, it's airing
bad.
at best. It's probably a void, but we'll see. Maybe one day.
The next card we have up in pack 3 of this cycle is a neutral Earth province called Courteous Greeting. Hello. It is a strength 4 province that says action during a conflict at a Earth province of any kind, either yours or your opponent's, including this one. Choose an attacking character and a defending character. Bow those characters. Get it? Because they're being courteous to each other. It's hilarious.
Lol.
My hot take on this. Honestly, overall, I know these kinds of cards where they're kind of like anthem effects for very other like shared provinces kind of get like a lot of flack. I personally like them just because I've had good play experiences with them, most notably with the first one, which was Along the River of Gold. I kind of won a couple games off people not like, or at least put myself in an advantageous position to win off being able to trigger that off their own provinces, because people just don't think about the fact that it says water provinces, not just at this province. But that being said, this card is good if you have a chump blocker to block, where you just block with a chud and then bow it and your opponent's dude. So unless they have come in with one or two or more dudes or have a conflict character in hand to play, we kind of just bounce off this and then just go home, right? So it trades up pretty well. That being said, the current meta right now is like there are a lot of stand cards, in most notably Lion and Crab. So maybe you get it off, maybe you stuff somebody, but they can just prepare for this card and then come in again. So I would at most put this a water card at most. Kind of a meta check, kind of like where you want your deck to be at. If you're a bunch of weenies, just being able to block or trade up more effectively. But that's about, I think, as best as you can get. I think there are better Earth provinces that you could probably run outside of most clans that you just don't really need this card. Over to Drew.
I want this card to be good. I want a card to come into the meta that uproots cards like Upholding Authority. But it won't. It's
That's
just
so
not
hard
strong
to
enough.
do.
Upholding Authority gives you so much knowledge, and it's just not strong enough. This is a good card. Don't get me wrong. If this was the only Earth province, I would
Outside
run
of
this
like
card.
defend the wall.
Well, if
But-
this were the only Earth province, it wouldn't do anything. But
right,
you know,
but there are cards like, as Brendan just said, Uphold the Wall. There are cards like Upholding Authority. There are cards like Spectral Visitation that are just so much better than this. There are very rare instances where I see this card run. I'm giving this card a void. I don't see it run very often because there are just so many better cards. I want there to be better cards, but there just aren't. I'm giving it to void.
You're Seeker
Yeah.
of Earth.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I went through that at Worlds. Seeker of Earth is garbage.
Well, what if you had this card back then?
Nope. Wouldn't have mattered.
Over to Ronnie.
Over to Ronnie, I'm giving it void.
Yeah, I'm going void on this, and there are just such better Earth provinces. That's the main problem. It's basically just the fact that like Upholding Authority exists.
It's the
And,
Void
like,
Province problem all over
Yeah,
again.
it's
But in
yeah,
Earth.
that's it's the problem of like in particular elements provinces just being just game warpingly strong as opposed to others. That is
cough,
the main
Brad,
crux of the
cards,
problem.
cough.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You probably should cut that out. I was just clearing my throat.
Yeah, I don't see this card actually being played because in my opinion, they're just better choices. Over to Brandon.
Yeah, Void, and I think that I do kind of I jive with what Drew and Brendan are saying. That I
like
I
we
feel
want
like
this card to be good.
I
right?
want
Yeah.
this card to be good too. But one, sure, Upholding Authority is never not going to be the best Earth province or like one of the best options for Earth provinces that boots everything else out, because it's almost like we have to ban cards that aren't Scorpions sometimes so that the meta can move on and be healthy. But
Yeah.
like really, I think that this card one day might see good use, but it's just the at Earth conflict things is just it's just not there yet. Maybe there'll be enough province play for it to be relevant, but
It seems
what
like
are you
I
giving
just-
it?
I just
for
don't
What are you
know.
giving it
every
as a rate?
element, for like realistically, like literally every element besides like water, and even that's being kind of alleviated with like certain element or eminent provinces.
Yeah, there's
like,
just
there are
there's
just
provinces,
strictly
there's just-
better province
yeah, just choices.
elements for you to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that there were a complete province overhaul. Like, for instance, if there was ever a Core 2.0, there could be a complete province overhaul where they just ban all the provinces and every clan gets their own province, and then there's the new provinces. Maybe they change the system how the provinces work, but like the provinces all started off as like gotcha mechanics, and then they moved into like strategic theming mechanics, and now they're like, this is the set of 5 provinces you use. That is the end of the discussion. One day, I would like there to be a choice based on like a dynamic decision that you make maybe during the game,
Or deck building.
or maybe like you can break them or whatever, and the strength is all like the same or different, or depending on which province is using the strength to the ability, but like the abilities don't ever go away, and they decide like some sort of mechanic with how your deck functions. That would be super neat. But as it currently stands, like there are right choices and there are wrong choices, and this is the wrong choice, which is why it gets a void ring. Our next card and the final card of this pack is very contentious pick. It is a card that we've been talking about since the day we found out about it, and so have you. This is a Dynasty event, one of those fun things. It is a 0 cost Dynasty event, which is great, and it is called Lost Papers. Now, not only does this card have Rally, but in addition, when this card's revealed in a province, you get to choose a character with the most fade on it among characters in play and bow that bow that character. Brendan, your hot takes.
This
Your
card is
incredibly hot take. The
Yeah,
very, very hottest of takes.
Okay, so on my name, Drew's name, Ronnie's name, Brandon's name, we're all putting fire, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
card
You can just put the
is
fire up.
you
That's
can just
fine.
put the fire. Ronnie, there's no way you don't put this fire, right?
No, I'm not
Okay. This, I mean, like, I just why did they print this card? This card is so game warpingly like skewed to just like not funness. It's insane. It's
Yeah, yeah.
neutral. It doesn't cost anything. It's a rally card. It bows your opponent's strongest character usually, and like even like if like character clans that like don't really even get around that can get around that, most notably like Crab with like reprieves and stuff, like you're just you're bowing their tower, and without like I mean, I know I just said earlier that there are a good amount of like unbow effects. The card you can literally not even have the bow effect in it, and it's still a good card, right? It's rally for 0. I've had literal games where I was winning and then somebody lost papered my dude, and then lost papered him, and then like killed him right after. I re-readied him or rebowed him after the fact. The card just shouldn't exist. It's like an unfun card, but like because it exists, everyone has to play it, right? Like it's an auto include in every deck. There's no reason for you not to. It's literally free. I like don't get it. I don't know why it exists. Over to Drew.
This card is nuts. It has rally. It's 0 cost event. It is dynasty. Sure, sometimes you might not see it, but unlikely in the new rally meta. Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Very unlikely in the new rally meta. The reaction is nuts. In my playtesting, there has been an entire one instance where I could not proc this. This card is nuts. It's a fire card. You pretty much always just bow your opponent's dude, and it's a game warping effect. The only clan it doesn't affect is Lion, because they have a card called Ready for Battle. That's about it.
Yeah, like even
but it still causes you to use the Ready for Battle.
Yeah.
Where you could use
you still have to
else.
pay a card. Like even in Crab, right? Like I have to sack a dude to ready my dude, or pay a cost during a conflict to fight on him, and I have to be water roll, but like whatever, to bring him in. Like you're literally like 2-for-1ing me for nothing. Sorry, I'm like getting into like Ronnie and Brandon's time, but like this card just gets me so rustled. It like it just I don't know, Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Yeah, I know. Like
all of those
like
things.
maybe if it was an action instead of a reaction, where you could like try to play around it instead of just like getting slapped in the face as soon as your opponent reveals it. Like it's nutty.
Yeah, and I think my thoughts on this are obviously it's firing. It's the most bonkers card in the game. Don't worry, everyone who really likes this effect. It's not red, so there's no chance it'll get banned. So basically, what you're looking at is a card that not only is going to have to be a 3 of in every deck, but also is absurdly good for every single faction always. And on top of all of that, it's probably going to warp the environment into you don't want a 3 and 4 and 5 fate characters anymore, because they'll just get bowed by lost papers, and unless you have an unbow ability, they're basically worthless.
Even if you do have an unbow ability, you're 2-for-1ing yourself.
Well, no, you're not 2-for-1ing yourself, because like you can't you're still going to get the character to stick around forever if you're going to 5-fate it. But it is worth noting, the one time that this does not work is if you rally it in because you had another rally card. It's not being revealed, and therefore you cannot react with its reaction. So that's the only way that you can screw yourself with this guy. So with every deck on the world having an immediate 6 events that are dynasty side and have rally on them, it is probably likely that you're going to rally a few lost papers now and then. But don't worry, because you're going to run 3 of them just like every other person. So
I
pack
mean,
3
this
mandatory
this
buy
kind
for
of
every player
yeah.
always.
Sorry to talk over you, but this kind of like works into that also that neutral card that is like also game warping called Season of War, where everyone has to run 3 of that card. If you are not, you are playing the game wrong.
Yep.
And I guess that's a way to check against this card, because if you season yourself, honestly, and your opponent, and they flip their lost papers and you don't, congrats. You've like just gimped them out of their lost papers. But
True.
that's also like not a great feeling for your opponent. And like it just means that, or you can do it against yourself and then your opponent doesn't flip them. It's those 2 cards literally in conjunction with each other, while like one counters the other, also just puts up this kind of like game of chance where like, hey, you're kind of like slot machining for like maybe just losing.
Yep. Well, that's kind of that, right? And yeah,
It's
I
a
hate
negative play
that's
experience for everybody.
I think that's all we really have to say about pack 3.
the
Yes.
more cards like this get printed, the more I hate Slovenly Scavenger.
Oh man. Yeah. So I think that's all we really have to say about pack 3. Thanks for listening, everybody, to this episode of the provisionally titled Above Question podcast, Hot Dogs or Soup Dumplings. My name's Brandon.
I'm Brendan.
And I'm Ronnie.
Drew.
Yeah. Have a great night, everyone.
Please like, comment, and
Well,
subscribe on the video below.
and above.